Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the irony overload of a Brexit supporting Conservative MP now wanting the government to shelve plans to stop freedom of movement. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, after we were talking about a Brexit Party MEP moaning that Britain will be losing influence after leaving the EU, we've now got a minister, not a cabinet minister, but a minister talking about the fact that freedom of movement ending will be bad for Britain. And, in this story, it's amusing on its own for the hypocrisy of a Brexiteer arguing against what they said Brexit was fundamentally all about. But it also says something about the attitude that people take when confronted with the realities of a destructive policy. So the Brexit supporter in question this time is Conservative MP Nigel Adams. And this is a proper card-carrying Brexit supporter. I know it's difficult to tell the difference at the moment because, in Parliament there are many Conservative MPs who know Brexit is bad and they argued as such before, when it was safe for them to do so, when they were allowed to express their own views. Now they're not allowed to express their own views. They all have to be Brexiteers. No. This one was when he was allowed to decide, which he was either way. Not someone who was forced to change his mind or lose his seat on the gravy train. He was saying how important freedom of movement was for musicians. Just to clarify, he is a minister in the department for, creative industries, which would include, of course, musicians. So he was saying how important it will be for that to carry on after Brexit. Of course, musicians must be able to travel freely around Europe. Just for musicians, of course. Other Conservative MPs have suggested that other industries should also get these exemptions. And this is what happens when you confront a politician who pays no attention to the details of policy. Why would they need to? If they're going to be a good little boy or girl, they get told which way to vote on everything anyway. Why do they bother? Why do they need to bother to read the policies? Doesn't matter. Which way do I vote, Chief Whip? Oh, that way, that's fine. But when you confront them with the realities of this policy they've been going along with, they have to think, okay, so I think the thinking goes along these lines. So on the freedom of movement, of course we need to end freedom of movement. We don't want people from free countries coming over to here and giving our serfs ideas above their station. No, that's bad. Keep the foreigners out. No more freedom of movement. Stop that. And if that means British people lose their freedom to move around Europe as well, that's good, because we don't want them visiting those free nations and seeing how happy people can be living under a different system of government either, and then coming back and giving the rest of the serfs ideas above their stations. No. But then someone poses a question to them. So what about the music industry? Do you want our musicians, and the British music industry is very successful, do you want them to be at a disadvantage and not be allowed to tour Europe then? Oh no, that would be ridiculous. Why would I support a policy that hampers such a popular British industry? So what do? You support this insane policy, but you've been asked a question about the detail of it, how it works in practice. How do you square that round peg? So you talk about exceptions, exemptions. So Adams has been saying they're looking at doing something special in this regard. But if ending freedom of movement is bad for musicians because they can't work easily in Europe then, and they need to, then why isn't it bad for everyone else who needs to be able to work in Europe? Or it's really bad for them. Adams was talking about, all manners of exceptions to this rule. But of course, once you start to establish a few exceptions, every time someone points to a reality of it and says, well, what about this industry? That it can't cope as well if you end freedom of movement. And they go, yeah, we need to make an exception for that. Well, what about this one then? Yeah, we need to exempt them as well. Once you've built up a few, surely you have to think to yourself, maybe this rule isn't such a good rule. Maybe ending of freedom of movement is actually just bad universally. And, they also have to consider that it's not just for the UK government alone to decide. It's all right him saying, yeah, we need to think about exemptions. No. You will need to negotiate exemptions. It has to be mutually agreeable with every other nation in the EU. This isn't even just a general collective of the EU. Every single member state in the EU gets to veto any deal they don't like or any part of a deal they don't like. So you need to get agreement with all of them. And each of them have different industries that are important to those nations. It's not going to be the ones that we think are important. It's not like we can cherry pick which industries will benefit and expect a quid pro quo from Europe. Perhaps the minister knows this and he's just saying it. Of course, we must make sure musicians will have freedom of movement after 2020 to make out he wants to help out, and then just blame the EU later on when it doesn't happen in 2021. Oh, well, we wanted to do it, but they wouldn't have it. Sorry, nothing I can do. And all these things we were told in 2016. We hold all the cards. We hold all the cards. And yet in 2021, 5 years later, those same people are going to be saying, well, we wanted this and Europe wouldn't let us have it. And we wanted this and Europe wouldn't let us have it. All the things that they promised Brexit would deliver, and they'll have to come back and say, well, we couldn't get this. EU wouldn't let us. We couldn't get this. They wouldn't let us. We couldn't get it. They'll go through a whole cycle. And the same people who supported the first argument that we hold all the cards will completely and vehemently support the exact opposite without any conflict in their own minds. This is what is so maddening about the process. You know, those same people who are going, we hold all the cards, Europe will, we'll get exactly what we want because they daren't let us leave without a deal. When we leave without a deal, they'll be going, what? But the EU are being unreasonable. The EU that they were saying a few years later has no power. But anyway, there it is. Another desperate irony. I'm sure there's going to be many more this year. There's already been 2 this week, let's face facts. So I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.